in terms of transcendental reasoning. The fact itself will either have to be categorized as being absolute, even within itself, unconditionally non-dependent, or if not, that the fact itself ultimately derives from what is absolute. Okay? This is transcendental reasoning, not circular reasoning. Okay? Now, in order for there to be a fact, the fact itself, when it is a fact, will be indicative that there's an absolute. Okay? Now, do you want to dispute that?
I did already.
Okay. You can't have a fact if nothing is absolute. No absolute, then you don't have factness, because factness is going to require that some things do not change.
So, define absolute.
Absolute is something that it exists, and that it does not change.
Okay.
And it is non-derivative.
Give me an example of an absolute.
God.
Is there any other example of an absolute?
There are things that do not change, but they do, like, for example, the regularity of nature, because they are imposed and sustained by the absolute that is God. So when we talk about absolute, okay, we can talk about things that to our acquaintance do not change, but that they couldn't be called absolute with a capital A if they begin to exist. Okay? So when we talk about absolute, we can talk about with a capital A or a small a, that there are certain things that persist, but that are not eternal. Okay? Now, the problem is this. I'm telling you that each and every fact reveals God because God purposes that way. Now, if you reject that, then you're going to have to explain. When you don't accept it, you're making an implicit counterclaim. So you're going to have to explain to me how you have facts. And the fact, in order to explain that there's even one fact, the fact in question will either have to be absolute in and of itself, or that it derives from the absolute. Okay?
Yeah, so the only difference between you and I is you claim to have access to the absolute, and I don't.
But here's the problem. Once you reject the absolute, you no longer have any background information whatsoever to invoke anything, because nothing would mean anything.
So how did you get to that conclusion? The absolute.
How did I get to it?
Yes.
By God revealing himself. Because we only have two worldviews. One where God reveals himself as the absolute, or there is not a revelation of God as the absolute. Okay? That's
So
a true Let me finish.
Yeah. How? No.
May I finish, please? May I
question.
finish, please?
No, because I want to ask a clarifying
We have a
question.
dichotomous situation here. We either have a world where God reveals himself as the absolute or ultimate, or we have the negation of that, where there is not any revelation of God as the absolute. Do you understand the dichotomy?
Well, that's because God revealed himself to you, but not to me.
You're not focusing. You see, this is the very problem that I have with atheists. You're not focusing on what I'm saying. I said, do you accept the dichotomy?
The dichotomy is that either God revealed himself to you or not, right?
No, the dichotomy is either God has revealed himself directly or indirectly as the absolute, or we're in a world where there is no revelation of God as the absolute. That's the dichotomy.
Yeah, of course.
Okay, now, so in the first world, God reveals himself and he's revealing himself as the absolute. Okay? But you reject that. So that means that whatever you speak out of your mouth will emanate from a world where the absolute cannot be invoked. There's no absolute to invoke. Okay?
Yeah, of course.
Okay. When there is no identifiable or defensible absolute, this destroys all worldview or metaphysical grounds to make intelligible statements. Because every statement that you make presupposes certain metaphysical conditions without which the statement couldn't be intelligible. If I said to you, the dog is wagging its tail, that statement presupposes a number of things, including identity over time. Okay? Now, if there is no identifiable absolute, then what would make identity over time real?
You're asking me now.
You see, you do not want God to be what is metaphysically primary or foundational for everything, but you are operating from one or more of fundamental parameters which are going to be implicit and inherent in you even stating the dog is wagging its tail. But the point is, in your not God world, what is it that makes those fundamental parameters, whatever they may be, what makes them real?
I answered that.
What is it?
The common ground, the language we have,
That
the biology
that you're not
understanding of the dog.
okay, you're not getting this. This is going right over your head. I don't mean to be insultive here, but merely appealing to tokenism and conventional language does not address the question. What we're talking about is independent of human tokenism and conventionality. What is it that ontologically, in terms of a worldview scale, that makes these fundamental parameters that you need to exist, what makes them real? Okay? Is identity over time real?
Is that a rhetorical question, or are we supposed to
I'm
answer that?
asking Alfonso, is identity over time real?
Over a very short time.
Okay, what makes it real?
For you and
I didn't hear you.
for you and I, memory makes it real.
No, you're not understanding, Alfonso. Now it's becoming very clear to me what the problem is here. Okay. Human memory, okay, itself presupposes identity over time. Human memory does not ontologically impose identity over time. Okay, that's not coherent. If the human mind were to do that, then the human mind would be God by definition. Okay? So what I'm asking you is, independent of your thoughts themselves require identity over time. So on a worldview scale, what is it that institutes and secures the realness and actuality of identity over time?
God.
Okay. No, you don't believe in God. So I'm asking you, in your not God
That's the only
world,
answer that you'll accept.
okay, I am showing you through transcendental reasoning the futility and absurdity of denying that God is and that he's revealed himself through creation. That if you refuse to accept that God has revealed himself through creation, then transcendentally and metaphysically, your position is reduced to absurdity.
Why can I refuse?
What? Say that again?
Why can I refuse?
Why can you refuse? Because God has granted you the ability to rebel. But you see, there's
Okay, then
no I.
it's on him then.
Okay, explain to me, does I, when you say I, does that contain identity over time in your not God world? What does the I
No,
refer to?
not really. Not really.
Does the
So
I that you invoke, does it retain any identity over time?
in reality, no. I've ran rooms on this. Identity is an illusion.
Okay, okay, guess what? Now it's over. Game over, lights out. If identity over time is an illusion, then it is meaningless to speak of anything. Because the moment you speak of it, you're referring to something that has already come and passed. It's called temporal becoming. Okay? So the moment I say the sky is blue, okay, a time index has passed. Temporal becoming has occurred. Identity over time for some things is a necessary prerequisite for intelligibility. If identity over time is not real, then you don't have intelligibility. Do you understand?
Absolutely.
Good. So the point is your position now has been reduced to complete absurdity. When you say identity over time is an illusion, right? Then anything that comes out of your mouth doesn't refer to anything. Because in
Yeah,
order
this
for
is
it to
what we.
refer to something, there's going to have to be identity over time.
Yeah, this is what we concluded last time. Remember?
Okay.
Last time you
Yeah.
and I had a one-on-one, we concluded that for me, nihilism sounds like the most plausible.
No, sir, you don't live this way. You do not live this way. No human being lives this way. Every time you speak, you are presupposing certain fundamental parameters, such as identity over time, such as that there is unity among diversity. Okay? You see, so you on the one hand and others will spout nihilism, but you don't live this way. Okay? So your position, since you refuse to accept that God is through revealing himself through creation, the only way that I can show you, finally, is to show you that your denial that God is and that he's revealed himself is self-stultifying, that it implodes into absurdity. Your position results in absurdity. Okay? But you see, you're not motivated by reason. You're motivated because you don't want God to exist. So you're going to say anything to come out of your mouth in order to facilitate your prime directive because you don't want God to exist. Okay?
Cool.
See,
Alfonso. Sure,
the
I'm
atheist
sorry.
position is incoherent.
Thank you. Thank you, Darth. Alfonso, I'm going to take a minute here. Um, can you just summarize what you've understood so far in the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, the discussion that you've had? If you could reframe Darth's argument and position in your own words. And then if there is a disagreement, Darth can come back, I think. But I'm getting the impression that maybe you're not understanding, or maybe that's not being able to explain to you, because I don't, right? So I want to hear from you.
No, Fergus, I'm perfectly aligned with Darth. Perfectly, like the so it always comes down to local and universal, right? It always comes down to I'm not completely nihilistic because of my biology, basically, right? I'm gonna get out of bed because my brain chemicals are gonna tell me you're hungry, you need to move, you need to get a job, otherwise you're gonna starve. But ultimately, when I die, that's the end of it. It's ultimate nihilism. But in a local level, there, there is all these qualities that you describe, which are time. What was it? The time is
Identity over time.
identity over time. Yeah, identity over time. Yeah, locally, since I created that memory, since my body inherited that memory.
There's no basis to assert those.
Yeah, well, of course there isn't, because I don't believe in God. But
but there's no reason to believe in what you believe.
For you.
No, you're not. See, that's another non-informative, non-rebuttal rebuttal. Okay, you whenever you invoke something, whatever you invoke is not absolute in and itself, nor does it derive from anything that's absolute. So then there's no fundamental reason why anything is what it is.
Because for me, absolute doesn't exist. It's a chain of change. It's a network of chains, right? It's a system
you're not
theory.
Understanding that if you say nothing is absolute, then you can't refer to anything existing.
All right. I'll take 30 seconds here, Alfonso and Darth, if I may. So I think, if I may rephrase, and do correct me, Darth, as soon as I finish. So I think Darth's proposition or argument is for things or facts to have any sort of a meaning, or to have any sort of a reason, or to understand why you reason and give meaning to it, there necessarily needs to be something absolute, right? And I think, Alfonso, you had asked what that absolute is, which I think Darth is defining as God, right? So I think the notion is, if we do not have this absolute, let's call it X or God, nothing would make sense. Facts won't have meaning. Meaning itself won't have meaning. We cannot make sense of reasoning. We cannot do anything. It's that kind of the argument, Darth.
Yeah, it's a transcendental argument that he is simply ignoring. He denies that there is any absolute at all, but everything that comes out of his mouth refers to certain things that are static. But there's nothing that imposes the staticness. Okay?
Nothing is static. Nothing whatsoever is static. Everything is dynamic.
Okay, you're not okay. You don't understand the metaphysical circumstances that you're now in. If nothing is static, then you can't talk about your brain. You can't talk about biology. You can't talk about anything. Okay? Do you understand? In order to speak intelligibly about things, there must be unity among diversity. If there is no real unity among the diversity of things, you won't even be able to appeal to propositions or facts that require identity over time. Identity over time requires unity among diversity. Okay? Now, without there being unity among diversity, right? For example, if there was all unity but no diversity, you couldn't speak intelligibly. If there was all diversity and no unity, you couldn't speak intelligibility. So unity and diversity are a prerequisite for speaking intelligibly. Another way of putting it would be continuity versus discontinuity. Okay? Now, is unity or continuity a necessary prerequisite to speaking intelligibly about anything?
So only locally, not universally.
No. We're talking about within the broad scope of things. If there is no unity or real continuity at all, could you speak intelligibly about anything?
Of course not.
Okay, now you want to believe that there is unity or continuity interposed with diversity as a prerequisite. Now, what I want to know is, since you do not believe that God has revealed himself and God is the creator and imposer of the unity among diversity, what makes any unity or continuity real, other than the fact that you believe it?
Yeah, it's again, it's like an illusion. It's not absolutely real.
Okay, you're not understanding
it's a
now.
construct
Okay?
of human brain.
No, then you can't speak of humanness or brainness because that requires continuity. That requires unity over time. Do you understand?
Local.
There's no bifurcation here of local versus global. Okay, in this particular situation, right? Either unity and continuity is real or it is not. Is unity and continuity real in any way?
Todd, do you mind elaborate what unity is for the audience who may or may not know?
Unity means that some things stay the same or are unified. Such, for example, if I talk about dogs, if I say, "Oh, those two furry creatures on the front lawn, those are dogs," I am invoking unity. Okay, not not
Beautiful.
only in, not only individually for those creatures, because there's identity over time, that there's a unity between the two of them that they share. If I talk about two identical sisters, if I say they're sisters, okay, I am conveying that there's unity among them that is real, that it's not just simply an illusion. So let me give you this example, okay, Alfonso. Imagine we had two women who were doppelgangers. I could show you a picture right now of two women who are doppelgangers. They look like identical twins. And the one woman goes to court and she's arrested for drunk driving. Okay. And the judge says, "How do you plead?" And she says, "Not guilty, Your Honor." And he says, "Well, why do you plead not guilty?" Right. And she says, "Well, you see, what happened was my twin sister and I accidentally switched pocketbooks because we had the same pocketbook. And she had my driver's license and I had her. And it was she who was driving intoxicated. And so when she was arrested, the police officer arrested her and he had her driver's license, which looked just like her. And so she was the one who was driving drunk and not me. And the judge responds, "Well, that's a lie because the two of you are not twin sisters." Okay. In other words, the unity wasn't real. Now, that's an analogy. If there is no real unity or actual continuity in the totality of things, right? If you say that it is an illusion, you're saying that it's not real. If unity and continuity is not real, it destroys completely your ability to speak intelligibly. Okay?
Okay, so Darth, what, where is there continuity, unity, and continuity? Name me one thing, excluding God, of course.
Continuity. Well, that you're the same person you are right now than you were 10 seconds ago, although some things have changed about you.
But that
Or
breaks
or for the
continuity.
matter, or for the
That's fine.
you are confusing continuity versus absolute continuity. If there's absolute continuity,
Exactly.
then you're not, listen to me, you're not focusing. Listen to me. Continuity means that some things stay the same while other things change. Okay?
So what stays the same eternally besides God?
Okay. I would say there's nothing identifiable or defensible. God will be the most fundamental parameter by which you will have to appeal to, without which you will not have any frame of reference or background information to invoke anything. The bottom line is this: do you understand that if you deny that any unity and continuity is real, you destroy your ability to speak intelligibly?
So transcendental reasoning is secular reasoning, but
I
fancier.
asked you a question. I'll repeat the question. Do you understand that if you outright deny the actuality of any amount of unity or continuity, if you deny that it is none of it is real, you destroy your ability to speak intelligibly about anything.
Yeah, you've said that over and over, but it's not true.
Do you agree with that?
I said again, locally.
The local is subsumed within the global, my friend.
Nothing
global
is
means everything. Is there any real continuity at all?
Okay, how long does it have to persist for it to be continued?
Is there any continuity whatsoever?
No.
Okay, good. Now you destroy your ability to say anything at all, because whatever you invoke possesses no relationship, unity, or continuity to anything.
Yeah, I'm putting God's hat on.
Okay, all right. You know what? I'm beginning to understand why our conversations get nowhere. It's because you do not want to accept the obvious. Every time you and I and everyone else, if we talk about the cat running across the front lawn or that the sky is blue, we are invoking implicitly various levels of continuity. Okay? If continuity, if everything, listen to me.
That's exactly my point.
Listen to me.
Levels of continuity.
Okay. All right. You don't. Yeah. Alfonso. Alfonso, you're a nice guy.
You can yell at everybody, but nobody can yell at you, right? Because you've got God behind you.
Alfonso, you're a nice guy, and I like you. Okay, because you have been more fair to me than 99.9% of the atheists out there, and I appreciate that, and I do genuinely like you. But you are simply denying the obvious, which is embarrassing. If continuity itself for our world were absolute, right? There would be no diversity. Okay? If diversity were absolute, there could be no continuity. Either way, if you don't have a mixture of continuity and diversity, without that, there is no intelligibility. Okay? If everything consisted of continuity, then nothing would change. Okay? If nothing changes, you couldn't speak. If nothing has continuity, then the utterances that come out of your mouth wouldn't refer to anything. So do you understand that absolute continuity and absolute diversity both result in complete absurdity? You understand?
That's what we agreed on. Nihilism.
Right. No, nihilism results in complete metaphysical absurdity and collapse. You won't be able to say the dog is wagging its tail. You're not understanding, okay? Nihilism means that nothing means anything.
What does nihilism mean again?
Nihilism means that nothing means anything. Sometimes people are moral nihilists. Sometimes people are global nihilists. The bottom line is this. You want to come up and you want to say, well, I'm using my reasoning faculties, Alfonso, that God is unworthy of belief. But even to say that, in the absence of God as the absolute and creator and imposer of unity among diversity and imposer of continuity among diversity, you have no unity and diversity to appeal to when you say you have reasoning faculties. Because even to say I scratch my nose or I have reasoning faculties or the dog wags its tail requires a world where there's continuity and unity. But you said continuity doesn't exist. So if continuity doesn't exist, then nothing is ever the same, ever. Therefore, you couldn't speak of anything. You couldn't say dog.
The moment the dog finished wagging his tail, it stopped being continuous.
You're not understanding. Dog doesn't refer to anything.
I am understanding and I'm explaining what you're trying to tell me.
What does the dog refer to?
No. Hold on. The continuous image is that I have an image of a dog and you have an image of a dog. You perhaps have a dog at your house, and your wife and you have the same image of the same dog with the same personality, the same traits, right? That's the continuity you're talking about. Now we're going up the chain of events of the systems that we
There is no
know.
chain of events in your world.
Of course there is. Otherwise,
Okay, you've now
why do
contradicted
you and
yourself.
I talk about the dog at the same?
You've now contradicted yourself. You've now contradicted yourself.
Because we're talking about local and infinite.
No, sir.
Right?
No, sir.
So,
sir. Global incorporates
what I
the local.
said there was I'm putting on my God hat and saying
I'm wasting my time. Okay.
Tail is
yourself.
You haven't either converted anyone or convinced anyone of your
You're
argument.
changing the subject now.
That has to be the fundamental.
Everything that you just said presupposes continuity. You see what he's doing now, folks? This is what atheists do. They go from debating, and then when they get defeated, okay, they resort to bickering. Everything you are saying right now presupposes some continuity, but you stated, okay.
You begin kicking people out of your state.
All right, here we
That's
go
how
again.
You start
It
your
never
conversation.
fails. This is proof
You
positive
get me
to me how irrational atheists are.
Because you are irrational. You're not listening.
What does the you refer to? What does the you refer to?
All right.
I told you earlier, it's continuous to a small degree. It's probably more of an illusion.
Continuous.
So hold on.
Continuous presupposes continuity.
It's my turn to explain to you what things are, okay? What is the Hudson River? Is it the name?
We're done.
Is it the water? Is it the life? Is it the fish? Is it your idea of the Hudson River? Same thing with humans. We have neurons, organs, a body that is changing. Cells are changing, coming in and out. I have a name. There's many things that are pseudo-continuous that define me. But that eternal soul that you claim to have, and that the only reason you believe in it is because there's a contingent absolute entity called God, which you circularly define on and on by saying, no, it is a metaphysical.
I haven't circularly defined God.
Yes, you have.
Okay. Well, here's what you're not getting, okay? You are contradicting yourself, and I've made this clear to you. You have said there is no actual real continuity whatsoever, yet every time you speak, it implicitly...
Okay, may
I finish, please?
There are local continuities,
no,
not
sir.
eternal.
No, you're not understanding. When we say globally, it means all-encompassing. Is there any continuity at all?
Nothing is globally, eternally continuous.
Okay, we're
God,
done.
if you believe in God.
Hey,
yes,
we're done. You've decided no longer to have an adult interaction. You're just now bickering like a teenager.
You never do. You never have adult conversation.
Oh, I do regularly.
You give lectures on what you think is right, and you insult people, and you tell atheists are irrational and dumb and stupid and what have you.
Notice he's not responding to what I said.
Of course I'm not. I'm responding to your character, to the type of person you are. You know, people try to come up to you. Does a global statement? Hold on a second. You do not listen to them.
If I make a global statement,
and make their point, because
this is what they do.
You are a lecturer and not a humble servant of God or anything that you could believe in.
Okay, do you understand that if you make a global statement, it includes everything? So you cannot bifurcate the local from a global statement if the global incorporates everything.
Of course you can.
All right. You're now irrational. So we're done. Okay, you've now decided to go the bickering and irrationality mode. You're contradicting yourself. Every time you open up your mouth, you're invoking the actuality of some continuity. But you stated there is no actual continuity whatsoever. So you are contradicting yourself.
Could you repeat the last statement? So when
I
Alfonso is
said
speaking, yeah, go ahead.
he keeps on wanting to make this bifurcation, right? Which is ludicrous, okay? If you say globally, there is no continuity whatsoever for anything, then you can no longer have the ability to say that there is local continuity. Okay? The global statement overrides any statement of locality, locality. Okay? He
The global,
doesn't want to admit, right, that what he's doing is whenever he speaks, he's making statements that he thinks can be invoked as real and intelligible without reference to God as the absolute, as the ultimate. But then when I asked him about the prerequisites of that, meaning that there is unity among diversity, that there's continuity among diversity, are those things real? Is continuity at all, in any sense, at any time, in any way, real? He said no. But then when he continues to speak, he's invoking things that presuppose continuity for their actuality and intelligibility. So he's contradicting
Yes,
himself.
I said the 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 moment I said there's no continuity, I said because I'm putting on God's hat. Because if God existed, a second millennia would be the same, right? And that's what you're invoking. You're invoking continuity from a perspective of the divine, and from a divine perspective, there's zero continuity. For our
That is not
local
my position.
experience,
That is not my
oh, of
position.
course it is. Of
No,
course
it
it
is
is.
not. The bottom line is this. You stated earlier, there is no real continuity. You stated that, right?
I don't believe that. I take that back. Okay.
Okay. So, is there is the actuality of continuity a prerequisite to speaking intelligibly?
I'm gonna pass the baton. I'm gonna wash my hands and let
Yeah.
anyone else on
Mhm.
stage crucify you because I need to have lunch with my family.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you for inviting me up, and we didn't agree, but I do appreciate that you're even though we disagree, you're more than fair with me.
Alfonso, for those, can you just take me a little bit back to the title of the room in terms of a proper kind of give it a little bit of a flesh so we can talk about it, getting beyond this kind of gibberish. Go ahead, Alfonso, tell me.
sure, I can give a reset. I think there's then because
I'll
some or
explain. I'll
go
explain.
ahead, go ahead, go ahead.
So atheism is a proper brainwash. It's actually also a bad brainwash because it doesn't. Morality and all these things are completely subjective. There's no way of knowing what's right and wrong, good and bad. But what I was trying to convey was, to me, losing dogmatic thinking, is the proper brainwash because the universe is dynamic and changing. Nothing is absolute. Nothing is infinite, and unless you believe in a God. The moment you bring God into the equation, then everything changes, right? Because and the problem there is which God, what dogma, what doctrine, right? You have hundreds of thousands of different doctrines. Every religious person has a different doctrine. Every atheist has a different doctrine. So this title was tongue in cheek because even atheists are full of shit. Everyone is full of shit, right? We're all not designed to know the truth, to understand the truth.
Then
We
you
are,
can't say that.
and I'm going to say designed by who? We're designed by
Well, wait a minute. If
evolution.
everybody's full of shit, then what you just said is full of shit.
At the
Hey,
end of the day,
Alfonso,
at the end
Alfonso,
of the day, if
sorry,
let me
Alfonso.
finish my statement. At the end of the day, if what I say becomes dogma, right? If anything I say becomes a doctrine that is immutable, like thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not have any gods before me, thou shalt not ... then that's when it becomes bullshit. The moment I'm talking in a dynamic universe with a modern contemporary knowledge of what I know and what the people around me know, and I'm willing to change my point of view and understand different perspectives, it's not bullshit. So what I'm talking about is it's good to wash our brains from dogma and doctrine, because that can take you down very dangerous rabbit holes. And atheists and scientists and everyone can be a victim to this.
But you see, you have no ultimate or absolute from
I'm
which to
talking
appeal to
Ali.
say that something is
So,
dangerous. You're
We
contradicting
don't
yourself.
need absolute.
Alfonso, can you please continue your perspective on the title? Also, I would like to hear Firdaus, and I would appreciate if people just don't jump in and interrupt you, because I'm not interested in what they're saying. I just want to hear you and Firdaus's perspective on the title of the room, so we can have a kind of a proper discussions. Go ahead, Alfonso.
Yeah, I think I explained myself. Basically, to wash our brains is to rid ourselves of things that can be very toxic. We've evolved religion and all these concepts for societies to function, for tribalism, for us to be cohesive. But we have to wash ourselves and allow ourselves to entertain new thoughts, new ideas, scientific discoveries that have very well discarded 99% of what religion claimed to be true, and the explanations for the universe and for good and evil. I want to pass it to Firdaus, and back to you, Ali.
So quickly, shortly, Ali, I think you noticed the word proper in before the word brainwash. So as we all know, brainwash has certain negative connotation with it. So Alfonso's intention was this brainwashing itself is to get rid of dogmas and whatnot, thereby making it a proper brainwash.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a pretty interesting discussion in terms of understanding what path we have followed in our past to get to the point that we are in terms of being a believer or a non-believer, or definitely not give a damn, which way. There are people who actually go about, living their lives. They have no further thoughts about these things. But certainly we know that a good portion of people, about 70% of people on the face of the earth, they do believe in some form of kind of Abrahamic, religion. So it's a substantial kind of issue to be kind of discussed. And I've been always amazed by, and why this is the case. And so it's good to kind of, think about or how did we get to this point that we are? And we're so passionate about it. And I think I would be probably more religious people are more compelled and feel really a total obligation to defend their case, and as if they want to talk about their belief system and trying to defend that somehow, either kind of proving the nature of God or the concept of God existing through logic and science. And I they make a good effort, and so it just seems to me it's a good way to kind of think about. Like myself, I really have never been on any kind of a spiritual path, but certainly I have just kind of made a point to be a curious person, read, understand various concepts. I mean, there's different realms, in physics, mathematics, psychology, and including religion, because it's such an important kind of concept, as I mentioned. So I guess there are a couple of ways to kind of get to this point. One is, and I'm not saying completely black and white, but some people, for example, they read the good books and they listen to the rabbi and priests and the mullahs, and then they go to the church and mosques and the synagogues, and they give kind of a foundation in terms of the form of belief system, and they may not reach out to kind of investigate this concept and have some doubts in terms of what's being told. to them via the good books and the interpretation of the good books by the scholar of the religions. But a chap like me, I'm not completely happy with that. I just have to really investigate on my own the best I can. And it's a wonderful kind of place to go and learn, about the logic, science, philosophy, different ways of thinking. So I constantly like to kind of challenge myself. And so anyway, I think so in a sense, you can. I kind of liked kind of the phrasing proper brainwash. The first proper being kind of with good connotation, and the brainwash being a negative connotation. So it's kind of a good sweet and sour kind of mix, which I appreciate. Anyway, I just wanted to kind of tell you a little bit about my own path and to get where I am right now. And anyway, thank you for the room. Looks like a wonderful discussion here.
So quickly, just one short question, Ali. So whatever you've been saying, let's say for the last 3-4 minutes, to make sense out of it, for me to comprehend it or um, attach meaning to it, do you think it's necessary for me to believe in an absolute?
Yeah, I honestly, just from personal perspective, I have never found a reason or even a need or a fear to kind of reach out for any kind of supernatural domains. I've been able to find kind of reasons for the biological events, the things that happen in my mind, and I can see why people they have the need to reach out for the supernatural kind of perspectives to
He
kind
didn't
of.
ask you about that. He said an
Yeah,
absolute.
Darth, I would like you to stay quiet because I have a discussion with Darth, so you need to kind of follow the rules in here. Um, so so it seems to me that I've never been able to kind of reach out to anything like that. I just don't see a need or necessary to do it. And every time I've done that, certainly I found things becoming quickly very, very complicated. The concept of evil, for example, is a good one to think about. Once you introduce God and Satan and the rest of it into it, it becomes hugely complicated. But if you look at it, again, I'm just picking up an example to make a point. uh, Concept of evil, it's really, you can call it evil. By the way, I don't think I like to even call it an evil, because once you call it evil, somehow it has this connotation of a supernatural kind of domain. So evil happens because of, for example, geological and climatic kind of events, cause, devastations. People do bad things because they psychologically, emotionally are not well. The concept of humans are being kind of greedy, selfish, not all the time, but that's certainly that explains why bad things happen. And the theory of germs, and why people get sick. So the concept of evil, for me at least, is more kind of easily addressed, less complicated, fairly clear, without reaching out to the the original sin and Satan and the rest of it, which really is it's just confusing for me. Further, so I hope I answered your question the best I could.
You didn't. He asked you about an absolute.
So at this point, I think it's a fairly small room. Whatever you guys want to do, PTR, popcorn, jump out.
Ashkan, yeah, I'll pass it to Ashkan. You wanted to say?
Yeah, so am I audible? Is my voice fine?
Nope,
No,
you're
you're in the matrix.
It's robot.
Is it better now?
yes.
Yes.
Okay. So I think we've so I'm going to keep it as short as I can, but also relevant specifically to what Darth is looking for, because I think his focus is slightly different. So I'm going to give a really short summary, and then Darth can tell me if I'm understanding him or not. So what he's getting at, I believe, is he's trying to say, look, if you don't have an absolute, that can impose a structure on the whole world, okay, on the whole existence. With regard to what? With regard to the sources of possibilities that we have, what's necessary, what's possible, what's contingent, what's necessary, what's continuous, what's not continuous, you run into trouble. What's the trouble? What's the problem? Well, the problem is you cannot account for things like unity or diversity that we see in the unity and so on. So how are you going to do that without an absolute? So far so good, Darth. Am I getting that right?
You're doing a pretty good job of it.
Okay, so what we have here seems to be a case where argument first approach is collapsing. What do I mean by that? There seems to be an axiom that has been presupposed by uh, Darth, and
No,
that
I'm
axiom
not
is,
proposing an axiom.
I understand. I'm trying to make a parallel case to come to your side. We will leave the axiom out. So what I'm basically saying is that he has a previous commitment. What is the previous commitment? He has a commitment to the absolute. Okay, that absolute can account for the kind of things that he has in mind. Okay, the continuity, unity, diversity, the source of ultimate, and the things like that. Okay, so the best way to approach him, I think, is on the level of theory selection, not argument first approaches, but theory first approaches. So what we need to do to address his concerns is to offer a rival theory that has an absolute, that can generate and can be the ultimate source of possibility, contingent, and so on. So at the level of theory, what is the other theory that we can give? Well, there is one theory which I quite like. The theory goes like this. I will explain the theory quite shortly, and then I will pause because I want to hear what Darth has to say. So I'm trying to do my best here. So let's take one word, okay, like the actual word, and let's suppose, for we don't know, but let's suppose that we know that it had a beginning. Okay, now the initial conditions for this picture of naturalism that I am offering will be necessary. Okay, now if there are other words like a multiverse or something, we said there isn't, for our purposes. We suppose that this was this only universe and had a beginning. But just imagine this wasn't the case, okay? Well, those other words will also share their initial conditions. Every word has this initial condition shared with other words, other possible words. So they will be necessary too. Now, objective chance is involved in how these words are evolved. Okay, if you have different possible words or just one possible word, and that objective chance is what gives you, when the word is initially on its in its initial stages, it's necessary, but after that, as it develops, as it evolves, objective chance becomes involved and gets involved, and you have contingent and necessary. The necessity that you have is rooted in the necessity of each word having necessary initial conditions, and you get your contingent stuff because of objective chance that is involved. So, what is the ultimate source of possibilities? Well, it's the initial condition. Okay, the initial condition gives you what's necessary and what's not. So that's one point. Another thing that he is asking is the unity. Okay, so I'm a nominalist. Okay, so I don't think that I would go for the kind of diversity he has in mind, which is fine. We can disagree on nominalism and not, but there is unity, right? There is unity, and the unity is just so the unity and the continuity is imposed by the initial conditions. The initial conditions get things moving in each possible word, and then you have the unity. Now, what the diversity comes in here is diversity just means that you can point to stuff and count them. Okay, so that's Okay, so I will close here what I have had to say and leave it off because I want to hear what Darth has to say because he wasn't engaged, so I am trying to engage him a bit more here. So Darth, could you say a few things and I will say a few things and then I will stop because others also want to join in.
What was specifically your absolute that makes
The
God as the absolute unnecessary?
causal reality in the initial conditions of each possible
Okay,
world.
initial conditions. I don't know what that means. What is that?
So I said that I left this open. Remember, I said if we have only one possible word and it had a beginning, I'm calling the conditions for it beginning to exist the
Okay,
initial conditions.
I don't think you're understanding my question. Okay, what is it specifically, singularly, that is the absolute that is not God?
Natural causal reality.
Okay, that's a non-informative answer.
But that's false. You see, what
No,
you
that's a non-informative answer
I
because
understand why you
what
say
you're now
it's
appealing, I'm trying to explain to you why it's non-informative. Okay, I said what you have to focus on my words. What singularly is the absolute that is not God? You're responding by an appeal to a plurality. Okay,
that's there is no plurality for the nominalist. You see,
okay,
that's the
sir,
disagreement.
is there a single absolute that is not God from which all things derive and depend in terms of what is, can be, and cannot be?
Yes, the natural causal reality.
Okay,
See what?
you're appealing to a plurality.
No, I'm. That's what we where we get wrong. I
Okay,
understand
so
where you're
you're
coming
appealing to
One
from.
second.
something that is
Why
singular. Is that correct?
why is it, Ashcam, that you think the singular cause of reality
Okay.
is different
Either
than
you're
just
going to
calling it God?
appeal to the
So
absolute as being
let me
singular
let
or
me hear
plural.
Darth talking.
Yeah.
Okay,
Are you appealing? Are are you
I said
invoking
I
that there
understand.
is? Okay.
I
Are you
understand. So
invoking? I'm trying
I
to
understand.
clarify so you understand. Are you
Okay, go
invoking
ahead.
an absolute, a single absolute that is not God or not?
Yes. So the single absolute that I am proposing is natural causal reality.
Okay. What is that?
So, as I said, your worldview that accounts for ultimate possibility and necessity has the absolute as God. That's one
Well,
theory.
I'm asking you
Okay.
what your absolute
I
is. What is that?
yes. Now, in my theory, what the absolute is natural causal
Oh,
reality.
you're not
Why is
asserting
it?
that it's the case then.
Of course I am. So let me tell you
Okay.
why I am asserting this.
Okay.
So the
So then
reason
it's
I
not
am
a theory.
so no. By theory, I just mean that you have a worldview of. Take you. I'm using the vocabulary of Graham Oppie, but you can't say the worldview, okay? If you're because I understand that theory has
Okay.
connotations. So let's say worldview.
Is there one thing that's absolute?
Yes, I said that. The causal reality in
Okay.
each word
Causal
is the
reality.
one
What
real
what
thing.
what it, what is that?
So okay, that's a good question.
The
So
word reality. Hold on a second. The
yeah.
word reality is a term of abstraction. It refers to the set
So I'm a
of.
nominalist.
Man, let me finish. Okay. When you say reality, right? Reality refers to the set of all real things. That set is an abstraction of concrete particulars. Okay? So
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 that's
when you
correct.
use
That's
would you
correct.
not interrupt me, please? When you use the word reality, are you referring to a concrete particular, or are you referring to an abstract particular, which is a set of concrete particulars?
So there are no abstract stuff when we're talking about natural reality, and I'm a nominalist. So we're
You're not
talking about
understanding me.
something. And
Okay.
so
When you
let
use the
me.
word reality, does it refer to a concrete particular, or is it referring to a plurality of things?
So that's what I'm trying to explain. But each time I want to explain, you jump in. It
It's a
either
simple
could be a
question.
particular. I understand, but the answer is a bit complicated. Remember,
Is it a
I left
concrete one?
open. Okay, I left open, remember, whether this is the only possible word or not. So if this is the only possible word, then yes, it would be a particular. If not, then it won't be a particular. Now,
You're
the
not
thing
addressing my
is,
question.
I am directly addressing it.
Is reality a concrete one?
It's concrete. Of course, it's concrete. What did I say?
You're not responding to the question. Is reality, when you use that term, does it refer to a concrete one as opposed to a plurality of concrete things?
Yes, of course.
What is the concrete one? If reality is a concrete one, you no longer have a
natural causal reality.
All right, listen to me carefully. I think you're not understanding. If reality, the set of all real things, is a concrete one, there cannot be a plurality of things. Wow. Otherwise, reality would have to refer to an abstract set of
but that's
concrete.
Wrong.
May I finish, please? Let me explain this to you. Okay, no, I'm not wrong. Okay,
you are wrong.
Reality either refers to one thing that is a concrete one, or it's referring to an abstract one. The abstract one refers to two or more concrete particulars. So which is it?
So I said single particular thing, concrete thing. Okay. So
reality is
I think allow me to explain a bit. I think Darth is supposing a kind of non-nominalist approach. Okay. So, and he's getting the order of explanation wrong.
You're not addressing my question.
I am, but this is a build-up that is necessary to it. The order of explanation is that the single member explains the singleton set, not the other way around.
You're not understanding this.
So the reason that this something is concrete, this natural causal reality, is the specific thing which is concrete, explains the set, the single set of what's real, not the other way around.
You're
the
not
single
understanding.
Set does not explain the universe.
Are you even attempting to understand him, Darth? Can you just shut up and let other people talk?
No, Emily, please don't do this. So because
he's not understanding.
I've listened. I've listened previously to Darth. Okay, so
do you think do you honestly think he's going to listen to you? Because it doesn't sound like he's going to listen to anybody.
But I cannot project my own understanding to him. Okay, so I'm trying to be fair. I understand where you're coming from, Emily, and I'm really suspicious of him. Okay, so the only reason I'm trying to do that is because I'm trying to get it across. Okay, that what he wants in order for him to be successful is an argument first approach. Okay, and the other area that we can approach is worldview selection. It's called within philosophical literature theory selection.
You're not addressing my question.
So I am getting to.
No, you haven't.
So
this whole time you haven't addressed it.
Ashkan,
yes, this is the time that this is the last time that I want to address your question directly. No, I want to. No, I want to. I don't need repetition. I'm going to address you specifically right now. So, just specifically right now, there is one theory, one worldview that Darth has, okay, that has one single absolute entity, call it X, call it God, doesn't matter what it is, okay? That is the source of all that is possible, contingent, continuous, or not non-continuous, and so on. Now, if we can offer another theory that subsumes all of this, then we don't need the theory that Darth is saying.
Yeah. Okay, I'd like an answer to my question.
This means that once we list two worldviews next to each other, Darth's worldview and my worldview,
Can you answer my question, please?
The answer to Darth's question falls out. Why should you prefer my worldview is exactly the same as Darth. Darth has one single absolute.
Okay, you're not answering my question. I asked you a question.
But I am answering. If you
no, you're not.
For just 1 minute, I am getting to your answer. If you list
after 20 minutes.
No, just 2 minutes, and then I will stop. Just 2 minutes, and I will stop. Okay.
I asked you a simple question: is reality a concrete?
So I will continue. when you list all the things that is inside the worldview of Darth has one single absolute in it. When you list all the things that is inside my own worldview, it has one single in it. Okay, so Darth has one single absolute, which is God. I have one, which is the natural cause of reality. So why am I saying you should prefer my worldview? Well, because my worldview is simpler than Darth. Okay? Why is it simpler? Because my necessary and absolute being is contained within natural causal reality. But Darth, when he wants to enter an absolute, he has to make it qualitatively and quantitatively more complex. Okay, so when we have
You're
the
just channeling Graham Oppie at this point, aren't you?
that is correct. Why am I doing this, Darth?
That's not an answer
See,
to my question.
that's I understand that's not an answer to your question in the sense that it's not
Recapitulating
argument
Graham Oppie is
first.
not an answer.
That's where you go wrong. The answer
You're
is
completely ignoring my question.
I'm answering your question head on and leaving right now.
You haven't so far.
Why am I correct? Because if my worldview is the correct worldview and can account for everything, so for sources of possibility and for sources of contingency and so on, you don't need to presuppose the X
You
that
haven't
Darth
addressed my
Dawkins
question the
is
whole time.
talking about. Which means if you
Oh,
do not need
he ran away.
if you do not need, I know why he runs.
He ran away, the coward.
I know why that happens because when he was talking to Graham Oppie, the same thing happened. Okay, so let me explain to you what is happening. If Darth Dawkins cannot, so Darth needs to presuppose, okay, the existence of one absolute. But when we give another theory that has another absolute in and of itself, that does everything else that God is doing, okay? So God is grounding necessary, possibility, differentiating between contingent and necessary, okay? And things like that. Now, if we have another theory that can explain all of these things, then we don't need to presuppose the X that was necessary for Darth Dawkins. So, why was Darth Dawkins wrong? Because we don't need the X that he's presupposing we need to explain reality. So, why are we? Go ahead.
With all due respect, I don't think the reason that Darth left the room is because of that. I think he left the room because
Guys,
he's statistical.
I moved him to the audience. He didn't leave.
Oh, well, anyway,
Then
good move, Alfonso.
then the reason I wanted to talk here first is that thank you Alfonso and others for making this possible, and another thing that I want to say is that the reason that he said you're not addressing my question, you're not addressing my question, you're not addressing my question is because his approach is argument first, and I don't think that approach is successful. If you get an if you want to get an answer to what's the ultimate source, all you can do is to compare theories. That's all the best you can do. You can't go to argument first because
What
it
do you
doesn't
mean
matter
by
what kind.
argument first? Sorry, I don't
So
understand.
argument first means that let's say I'm Darth, okay? I believe in Jesus or something. Now that's my absolute necessary. So every time you want to give me a reason for something else that is necessary, I will say, oh no, but that's not necessary or ultimate. So it doesn't matter what kind of reasoning you give me, I cannot accept this because for me, the ultimate is Jesus or God, okay? So we don't get anywhere if we go with reasoning. So Oppie suggests to step back from reasoning and instead ask this question. You have this one thing which is necessary, call it God or something, and is doing everything you want, right? You're not listening to my reasoning. My reasoning is not satisfying you. Am I correct? And he says, yes, your reasoning is not correct. You're not helping me. So Oppie says, okay, let go of reasoning. Let's compare what we can give, what kind of worldview we can offer that gives us a grounding and understanding of what's ultimate, what's necessary and what's sufficient, what's possible and what's necessary, what's continuous and what's non-continuous, and just compare what it is that for the theist, for Darth, for example, explains the source of all possibility and not possible, and for the naturalist or for the atheist, what's possible and what's necessary, what's ultimate there. And if we have a candidate, the atheist has, which is natural causal reality, then we have one thing, which is absolute, the natural causal reality. Why should we abandon our view that this is the necessity, the single necessity, and move to another worldview? Now, here we cannot go back to reasoning like, okay, this identity or time or things like that. Why? Because they are reasoned first. We need to ask about worldview. Is the worldview simpler or not? The worldview that Darth is identifying. Is it more informative or not?
But isn't that just reasoning? Like figuring out
It
which
is.
worldview is simpler?
It is. That is correct. But the difference is that you can only reason when you're trying to reason between worldviews based on the things that you are agreed upon. Okay. So, for example, if I say to Darth Dawkins, "Look, there is gratuitous evil, horrific evil that the naturalist better explains." Okay. For example, this is just an example. I'm not saying this is correct. That's not so obviously Darth will not accept the existence of gratuitous suffering, right? So this cannot be part of our argument for worldview selection. The only the only stuff that can be part of our argument for worldview selection are the things about which we agree. So when I say the abstraction or the things like that that Darth Dawkins talks about, we disagree about these things. These cannot be the mark of the things for worldview selections because we disagree. So that's the difference, you see. When we talk about worldview selection, we only allow for things that we agree on and we compare those things. So, for example, a really concrete example, regardless of revelations being true or false, okay, regardless of Jesus uh, returning back from the death or not, something happened that we know that something happened, okay, we have reports of what happened. That's what we both agree upon. Now, that's what we have to explain. Does the fact that we agree upon that something happened, we have reports of what happened, okay, which worldview explains this best? The theistic worldview or the atheistic worldview? If someone comes and says, "Oh well, God is all powerful and He can do anything," well, that's not part of the agreement. The agreement is just the reports that we have. So if you want to have an ultimate source of what's necessary and to choose the best one that is ultimately necessary, the ultimate source of what's necessary and what is the right one is the one that can explain the agreement, the data for the agreement. Not the
I don't think that will satisfy any theist, or well, maybe atheist,
so
but
so
not
let me just
not
give two examples
Darth.
of theists. That's correct, but then that just means that Darth is wrong to think about this argument first approach only. I will give two examples of theists who use this style of argumentation, and then I will stop talking because I've been talking for a long time. One is uh, Kenny Pierce. Okay, Kenny Pierce has a recent book with Graham Oppy, and he utilizes. He's a theist, really intelligent theist. Okay, read his works. He's really great. And another one is Richard Swinburne, and I love Richard Swinburne also. So yeah, of course we're not going to convince Darth, but why should we convince Darth or anyone else? That's
Well,
not that's
you
not
were
our
trying to have
job,
a
right?
you were trying to have a civil conversation with him, but he doesn't.
especially when Alan wanted to be seen as a person and have his beliefs be a bit separate from him. It it was an interesting conversation and direction to take the.
Kind of gospel, but the gospel of Christ would be that he's his kingdom's at hand. He's established his kingdom on earth. And I'm just kind of giving short context of it because I don't sitting here kind of preaching, but pretty much this idea that Christ came here and he was incarnated and he lived a perfect righteous life. He came, he healed humanity. He entered into death. He released the captives from death. He set all men free. Christ defeated death by his own death and pretty much gave everybody else life. And pretty much the gospel is his establishment of his own kingdom, his reign on earth, and we can respond to that gospel. And so one of the ways that we enter into that, obviously, through repentance, faith, and belief. But baptism is one of the ways that we start on this path of salvation. And this is
Okay,
ultimately
so
bringing
in
us
other
unity
words,
in
you're on a
Christ.
performance treadmill, right?
We're
Bro,
not we're not on a
please
performance
don't
treadmill.
interrupt.
Okay, is the ultimate deciding factor that
I'm
when
sorry,
you
who's talking right
die,
now?
Darth
Darth.
Dawkins,
Oh, okay,
is the
okay.
ultimate deciding factor when you die, is it your performance in cooperation with the death of Christ on the cross?
No.
No, I don't know where
Okay,
you're going with that one.
so the sacraments are not required in order to acquire salvific grace?
What?
Luther?
The sacraments, it's important. Yeah, it's important that we partake of the sacraments.
That's not an answer to my question.
Then
I'm
state your
very
What
much
question, please.
accustomed, listen to me, I'm very much accustomed to debating with Catholics and Eastern Orthodox. I'm very much
Okay.
accustomed to people giving me a
okay.
non-informative answer. Now,
Okay.
is repentance and faith in Jesus Christ alone sufficient at the moment of that to receive salvific grace? Or must we believe in Jesus Christ and for however long we remain on earth, perform the sacraments to a certain faithful degree in order to gain entrance into heaven?
The way you're stating the question is just very difficult
Strange.
to answer in a way
It's
that
a
you want to hear.
dichotomous question, sir.
Can you define
Yeah.
dichotomous?
The dichotomy is between repentance and faith alone in Christ versus the claim of repentance and faith followed by a certain degree of faithfulness and performance.
I mean, to be honest, man, the whole when you say faithfulness and then you attach a word next to it like performance, it's a strange
Yeah.
concept in the Eastern
Okay, do you
Orthodox mind.
perform the sacraments?
Um, whoa, whoa,
What?
can I talk? Like, I I
I'm
just hopped
asking a
in here.
clarifying question. Do you have to participate in the sacraments in order to ultimately receive complete salvation, okay, when you die?
We believe we have to based on Christ preaching them.
Okay, so the answer is yes then, that the what will finally tip the scales as to whether you get into heaven is whether
Is
or
Christ.
not
But
you're. May I
the whole
No,
finish,
no,
tip
no,
the
no.
please?
scale.
May I
If I could,
finish, please?
Okay,
May
yeah,
I
go
guys,
ahead and
finish,
finish. Go
guys,
ahead.
please? May
yeah,
I
don't
finish,
over,
please?
yeah, don't over talk Darth, right? Yeah,
Okay.
definitely
Yeah,
don't
Okay.
do
I'm
that. Your dog.
accustomed to this dodge routine where people start over talking me. Okay, now your position, and you correct me if I'm wrong, that what will tip the scales when you die as to whether you get into heaven or not is the degree to which you perform the sacraments. Do you believe that?
So we
May
don't
I?
like. Go ahead, you do.
I'm
Okay.
asking Luther.
Yeah,
So
but
so So
I
to your question,
said I'm asking Luther.
Yeah,
oh,
but if he tells me
wait,
I can answer,
I
then that could
said
be
I'm
something.
asking
wait,
Luther.
We
wait
know what you
time out.
said, Sora.
I
Wait, hold on,
said I'm
We,
oh,
asking Luther.
bro, we know what
guys,
you
it's
said,
not,
Sora.
I said I'm asking
guys,
Luther.
guys. So I'm gonna answer you, but before I do that, guys, we're just having a conversation. There's no need for us to kind of be going at each other's throats. Sorry for the
I'm
noise in the
not going
background.
anybody. I'm just simply sticking to
Oh,
my question. And when
okay, but
people are
like,
rudely interfering, I'm going to object to the rudely interfering.
okay, but still though, it's like you're getting.
Yeah.
I mean,
So
I
so so
can't
so
sit here.
Luther, just answer the question.
Luther,
They're very
let me tell you
specific,
something about
direct.
myself. Luther, let me tell you something about myself. I've
Sure,
been
tell
doing this
me.
for 12 years, dealing with people from various persuasions. I don't put up for 1 second anyone engaging in obstructionist tactics when I ask a direct question of somebody else. So I asked you a
Obstruction.
question. Do you need me to repeat the question?
What obstructionist tactics was brought your way?
Okay.
Just
I was asking you a question and somebody was jumping in. I asked you the question.
yeah. Let me do
He
a quick point. Wait,
he
1 second.
jumped in.
Wait, Luther. Let me do a point of moderation and whatnot.
Sure, go
So
ahead.
yeah, So Darth is very experienced, right, when discussing Catholicism, Orthodoxy, atheism. He is highly well read and knowledgeable on these areas. I think it's definitely useful to learn from him. Like I've learned a lot from Darth. I've picked his brain, and it's definitely benefited. I think like it can benefit you, it can benefit others. If you just conduct yourself in a respectful manner and are willing to like ask questions, to learn, to seek truth, because ultimately at the end of the day, I think the ultimate goal is for you and for me to believe in the truth, and the matters that we are discussing are those of eternal consequence, and these are part of the essentials of the gospel, right? We're not debating adiaphora, we're not debating the 9 essentials. No, we're debating about the sufficiency of Christ's blood on the cross, and if it pays for your sins, my sins completely and totally. So be that as it may, I would like for people to conduct themselves respectfully. When Darth is asking a straightforward question, to answer it in a straightforward way. And so yeah, I think that would be a good thing, right? So uh, Darth was asking like
Okay, I'll repeat the question. Okay.
Hold on.
When you die,
I'm sorry, Darth. Before you repeat the question, can I just kind of respond to what Theo said? So I definitely understand where you're coming from. However, I don't know if the conversation exactly is framed if it's framed exactly in that way, right? So
Luther, are you
initially,
going to
if I
answer the
hold on, let me
question?
finish, Chris. Let me fin. I'll answer your question. Hold
Yeah,
on,
you're wasting your
Chris.
time. This is
Chris.
what people
Chris.
do. You're
No.
filibustering.
Chris.
Okay. I
Chris.
asked you a
Chris.
question. Would you
No.
please answer it?
Darth, relax. So first of
No,
all,
I'm not going to relax.
No, Chris asked me a question,
Yeah.
and then after that, it was a question about the gospel. I just walked into the conversation. I answered that question, and then
Okay,
Edu was
you're wasting
initially.
our time.
Hold on.
You're wasting our
No,
time.
I'm with.
Are you going
Probably
to
in
answer
your
the question or
perspective,
not?
it's your time. No,
Are
let me
you
finish.
going to answer the question or not?
Can you relax and
Just
so
be
I could finish my
straightforward
thought?
with me. No, sir, I'm very assertive. Okay? Either
No,
you're going
no,
to answer the
that's cool.
question or you're
But
not going to answer
bro,
the question.
no.
Okay?
Listen,
Just tell me right now.
you're
Are you going
acting
to
so
answer the
controlling.
question or not?
Relax. That's not how
No,
it's
sir,
not
you're
how a
not
conversation
understanding.
goes.
Listen,
Somebody
all
I
right,
guess
asked
you
me.
don't get this.
all
You're
right.
going to play
No,
this little
no,
childish little game. I
no.
asked you
That's
a
not.
question. You can
Oh
either
my
answer the
goodness.
question, you say, I refuse to answer the question. What's it going to be? Okay? If you don't want to answer the question, you don't have to. Okay? But all we get is this bickering, and we get people interfering. And then when I object to people interfering, then more bickering ensues. This is a little game that people play when they're given questions that they don't want to answer. Okay? So just say, I don't want to answer the question. Okay? It's that simple.
Yeah, that's true.
Are
Yeah,
are
you could just
are you
answer the
done?
question in a straightforward
No,
Yeah.
manner.
Are you
So do
going
you
to
wait,
like
answer my
wait. Why
question?
can't? But Theo though, wait, is that Theo? Theo, why can't I say what I want to say? Darth jumped in and asked this question, which is fine. He's free to do that. But I was initially responding to what Chris asked me. It doesn't have to go exactly the way you
Right.
want.
You
That's not
made
how
a
a
statement
dialogue
about
necessarily
salvation,
goes.
did you not?
That's
Did you
Yes,
get
I
the statement
certainly
about the
did, but
good? I asked a
you jumped in
qualifying.
and I
Hey
wasn't done
Theo,
making my point
listen,
though.
listen to me. What you're
It
doing
doesn't
right
work. It
now
doesn't work
is
that
that
way.
this is disgusting. This is
Bro,
disgusting what you're
I'm
doing.
acting disgusting.
Hey,
Look
can
how
you
you're
shut up for
talking.
a
Look how
second?
you talk to
Can you
everybody.
shut up for a second? I'm
No,
talking to you
how
because
about
you're
you shut
behaving
up?
badly. You don't
No,
stop.
how about you do
Okay?
that?
Okay.
Okay.
See, hey Theo, you got to put your foot down with this crap. Okay?
Theo,
Yeah.
do you see what's
All right,
happening?
Luther.
Like,
Okay.
Yeah.
Theo,
I
would you
see.
put a stop to this, please?
Okay.
are,
So yeah,
this
Luther,
is
just
hilarious. Are
answer
you
or
serious?
answer the question directly,
So,
or
so how about
we'll
how?
bring up a
Okay, how?
Catholic. We'll bring up
Yeah,
a
how about
Catholic
he asked me the question
and
again since he was so
and
busy trying to assert himself so
and
badly.
You are obnoxious and you are
I'm
rude.
obnoxious.
okay.
Okay?
That is
Yeah, you
literally.
are. No, I
Well,
am confronting you about your bad behavior. You made a question about salvation. I asked you a qualifying question about your assertion about salvation. Somebody jumped into white knight for you. Okay? I asked you the question. Now, after you answer the question or you refuse to answer the question, then somebody else could have responded. But we got this 10, 15 minutes of bickering going on. What you're going to learn about me real fast is I don't put up with bickering. Okay? All you have to say is, I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to answer the question. Okay? And then we wouldn't have wasted any time. But if you're going to make a comment about salvation, and then when you stop talking, and there's a moment where I can ask a qualifying question, I'm going to answer it. Ask a question. I did nothing wrong in answering the question. But then we got somebody who was jumping in trying to white knight for you. And then after we resolved that problem, you just persisted in bickering and bickering and bickering. And I said, do you want to answer the question or do you not want to answer the question? And then you wouldn't even answer that question. And then you want to talk about me acting unbecomingly? No, I'm standing up for my assertiveness. Okay. I don't put up with nonsense. Okay. If you didn't want to answer the question, all you had to say was, I don't want to answer the question. It's that simple.
yeah, that's a great point, and I 100% agree. You're just asking straightforward questions, and I think the goal is just to seek the truth, and hopefully
Now,
that's what
now,
we're
Luther,
here for.
do you want to
So
answer the question or not?
Are you done asserting yourself now? Since I
Do
like
you
no,
want to answer the question or not?
Darth,
okay,
relax, buddy. Like you don't
Okay.
have
Hey,
to
hey,
be so
Theo,
hostile. I will
remove
answer
him
your
back from the
question.
stage.
Can you?
Okay. Goodbye, Luther. See you later. Okay. Okay. That's simple. See, this is what we're dealing with. We're dealing with people on Clubhouse who
did I don't know, did someone mute him?
who
Yeah.
who muted me. One of the
Yeah,
moderators muted me.
yeah, whoever it was,
Not
please,
me.
yeah, whoever it was, please don't mute him. But
Wait, hold
yes,
on a second. Who muted me?
Wait, Darth, wait.
Who muted me?
Can we slow down right now?
Okay. All right. Have it your way.
yeah, I was just clearing things up.
Okay. So nobody wants to be honest that I was muted. And then I want to say, why'd you mute me? Okay? It's that simple. See, this is what happens. You start asking people precise questions that bring light and clarity to the issue, and people just start bickering because they don't want to answer the question. Hey,
Yeah,
one thing people are going to learn about me, I don't put up with mistreatment that is hurled my way because people use this as a tactic to derail any questions that make them feel uncomfortable.
That, can you repeat your question?
The question for Luther
all right.
was, what is the final determining factor? What will tip the scale when he dies as to whether he goes to heaven or not? Is it repentant faith in Christ alone, apart from works and performance? Or, in addition to his belief, must he perform the sacraments to a certain degree of faithfulness in order for him to gain entrance into heaven? The question was very clear, And his first initial response was an evasive one. He did not directly respond to the question, which is a tactic that people deploy when they don't want to answer the question.
Oh, I see. And it should be a simple answer for him. According to their tradition, basically, the answer is yes, we need to perform the sacrament, else there's no eternal
Right.
life. We need to keep
Yeah,
up
and
gaining
good.
eternal life. So,
So your salvation depends upon your effort.
yeah, that's what they will believe, right?
Good.
Obviously.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
think that
So
is
you're
heresy to
believing
me.
in a works gospel. Okay?
Yeah, you should. Yeah,
It's
they would
grace
affirm
plus
that, but
works. Okay?
yeah, they
So in
should.
other
They should.
words, so that when you come to Jesus, so when the apostle Paul told the Philippian jailer, believe on the Lord Jesus Christ and you will be saved. What he really meant to say was believe on Jesus, but for the rest of your life, you're going to have to faithfully perform to a certain degree. Otherwise, you're going to hell. But that's not what he said. The Apostle Paul in Ephesians 2:8-9, he says, for by grace you are saved through faith is a gift of God, not a result of works, performance, that any man should boast. Okay?
Yeah, I totally agree, and that's why I think I'm reformed, right? But that's why I think the gospel of the Catholic gospel, whatever, is heresy to me, right? Because it's kind of like a works based salvation. They would deny it. Like no false Christian in quotes would accept that they are saving themselves
Well,
by their works, but in the practice, like in practice, obviously that's the case, right? So they'll tell you, oh, it's the faith from this works we do, the sacraments we do comes from the faith of Christ, from the merit of Christ. It isn't our work. And I asked them the question, okay, do you actually perform? Like, do you need to go to a priest to perform the sacraments? Like, I think the fundamental issue is the fact that they don't see doing something, humanly doing something as a work, right? I see, like, we who believe in faith alone, we see us doing something, humanly doing something as definitely a work. It's simple. It's a work, right? And we know that no work we perform humanly can save us. Nothing can save us. No work we perform humanly can save us. Only Christ's passion on the cross saves us, right? And believing in that work saves us. So yeah, it's gonna be an impasse if you discuss with Luther and Ido, because they have totally different worldview about what it means to work. So if you ask them, aren't you working by going to the priest for a sacrament or going to the mass to sort of wash away your sins? And if you commit a mortal sin, you've lost your salvation,
you know
and then you
why?
go to
You
mass
know why?
again.
You know why? It's because for them, the clergymen act as mediators between God and man. Those clergymen, the priests, through the Mass and the sacrament, are mediators and conduits of salvific grace. But the Bible makes it very clear there's only one mediator between God and man, the man Christ Jesus. Okay? So you'll notice that when you ask a clarifying question like this, you generally get dodges, you get evasions. Okay? You see, they believe all of this stuff because they believe in false doctrines. They believe in the primacy of Peter and apostolic succession, and therefore the authority of the magisterium, okay, the Holy See. And the final authority for them is not what the scripture says, but whatever the Holy See or the magisterium say it says or means. Okay? And because the magisterium, or the Holy See, if you will, dictates this sacerdotalism, this performance gospel, this is why they believe it. They cannot defend the primacy of Peter. Okay? The Apostle Paul in 1 Corinthians 10 refers to Christ as the rock. He uses the word Petra, the same word that Matthew in the Greek used of Jesus in Matthew 16. So these people are in a very dangerous situation. They're in a far more dangerous situation. I shouldn't say dangerous. It's far worse than that, than atheists, because at least atheists know that they're in defiance of God. Whereas the sacerdotalists think that they're on the right side of God by their performance sacerdotalism. They're deluding themselves that they're not still under the wrath of God.
Yeah, and you were spot on your first point. I think in the Catholic Church, the priests are called alter Christus, meaning another Christ, right? And any Catholic can correct me if I'm wrong, but they call the priest alter Christus, so another Christ, basically. And you find no such thing in Scripture. Like, you cannot find that. They defer to the tradition as, okay, validating them calling the priest alter Christus. So yeah, you're right on that. They see the priest, they see the church system as sort of immediate, like, they see them as mediators between God, Christ, and them, right? And that's where it all hinges on. Because if these people are mediators, then we need to approach them for salvation. It's no longer Christ as the center of our salvation. It's now the priest. Regarding the Peter authority of the church, now there are a lot of arguments and debates on that. I don't even think that's the main issue, right? I think if someone believes Peter is sort of as is the head of the church, or is like the central pillar of the apostles or whatever, right? And they still believe that Christ alone saves them once and for all. I still would embrace them after. I don't care about whether they believe Peter has a special role or not. But that's not the case for them. They believe that it's not all done on the cross. They need to do more by going to mass. And I was watching a debate between James White and what's his name again? The guy who wrote Not by Faith Alone. Robert Sunjanis. And I heard him defend the mass, right? And he took a portion from the book of Hebrews where it says Christ went in once and for all, right? And the way Sunjanis tried to show that this isn't once and for all, they need to do something in the mass to keep on the merit of the sacrifice, right? I couldn't, like, literally. I So I live in Nigeria, right? I've My church does evangelism to villagers. These are people who are not educated, right? They don't know. Like, they don't know English. They're not educated at all. But when you preach the gospel and you preach the basics of, like, the gospel, they get it, right? They understand this, right? And they sort of look at their works as nothing, right? And it baffles me, like, someone like Sunjanis, who's educated, cannot figure out the simple thing. That the way he looked at that portion of the book of Hebrews, I was so saddened, right? That, okay, this isn't a matter of education at this point. Villagers get this simple gospel, right? Why not someone like Sunjanis and a lot of educated Catholics? So, yeah, definitely, I feel the stumbling block is they wanting to do something to continue on Christ's work, to add to Christ's work, and they don't see it as adding to Christ's work. Like I say, they will never. Nobody admits that they perform for salvation. Nobody, right? Even Thomas Aquinas, who developed the sacramental gospel, never would admit that he believes in a works based salvation. But in practice, like you said, Peter says this, Paul says deceiving and being deceived. So they don't think they're being, that perform for their salvation, but in practice, that's what they do. You can't tell me you go to a mass every Sunday to merit salvation, and you don't think that's adding to the work of Christ. So that's performing something. You are literally going with your body, right? You're moving with your legs, going to take something. That's a work, right? Now they say, okay, no, this is what Paul was talking about, was works of the law, not works of faith. No, works of faith actually saves us. And I turn to Titus 3. Paul even says not works of righteousness. So Paul is even saying even works of righteousness, right? This is like true works, pure works of faith, doesn't save us. Not by works of righteousness, no, nothing, right? So so when they use the works of the law caveat, it just baffles me, right? Why do you want to add something to Christ's work? Why do you feel like adding something? And like you said, it's very dangerous, because I feel like anyone who believes the true gospel, as the Holy Spirit has definitely done something in their heart for them to trust in Christ alone. So I have a lot of friends, like Ido is my close friend. Like I still sort of, get confused. Like, what is happening here, right? These people love Christ. Then why are they not believing this pure, simple, glorious, happy gospel? Why? Like, why do they need to, like someone was telling me recently, oh, I need to go to baptism to be regenerated. But the physical act of baptism is needed for salvation. I'm like, really? If that's the case, then the gospel is been impure, like it's no longer pure, right? And so I think of this every day. Trust me, right? I don't yet have a solution. I don't want to say that I'm not saved, because I'm not God, right? But I truly feel your concern, like your deep concern. Like, this is a very dangerous slope that they are in, and I really don't get it at this point, right?
It's dangerous. Who's it dangerous for?
Yeah, it's dangerous for those who believe in this gospel. Like, I'm not God to judge whether they are saved or not, but it's certainly dangerous because
Paul said in Galatians, if anyone presents to you
true.
another gospel that I
Yeah,
did not deliver to you, let them
Yeah,
be
anathema.
eternally damned. Okay?
Yeah, true,
yeah.
true,
We
So,
true.
we we understand that, from because we read it. The thing that is troubling at this moment is how uh, you were allowed to destroy the decorum of civil conversation, insist that shut the person down.
okay, you
Oh,
need to stop right now. You need to
see,
stop right
this
now.
is what I'm talking about.
Stop right now. Good. I'm going to mute
You
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 because you are
can
now falsely accusing me. Okay,
no
what I did was I
no
stood up for myself. Okay,
no.
I did not destroy. I'd stop lying about what happened. Okay, I simply stood up for myself to somebody who was interfering with me asking a question of another participant. Okay, was not my first objection that somebody other than Luther was answering the question.
But you were not a mod, and
I
nobody
asked you
had
a
to answer.
question, sir. You're gonna accuse me. I'm gonna defend myself. The first words out of my mouth after I asked a question of Luther, when somebody else was interfering, was it not me objecting to them not letting Luther answer?
You were defending your assertiveness.
Right. Then, after that person was removed, Luther kept on filibustering, right, and bickering, and I kept on saying, do you want to answer the question? If you don't want to answer the question, just simply say so. And he refused to answer that. So don't tell me that I was destroying the decorum when I'm merely standing up for myself and people being abusive.
Well,
Okay?
see, at the moment, you have mod ability. Back then, you didn't have mod
It's
ability,
irrelevant.
nor the right to insist that
That's
anybody.
irrelevant.
Well,
Why is
Darth, I
it
have two
relevant?
things to say real quick, right?
Hold on a
It's not
second.
You,
Hold on
really
a second, Tyler.
irrelevant because
Pastor,
it's the
you said I
open
destroyed the decorum.
the
No,
decorum
I didn't.
of
I
civil conversation,
objected to
an open
those
conversation.
who were interfering. Are you listening to me? You are falsely accusing me. I stood up for myself without allowing somebody uh, uh, downtrodden on me asking somebody a question. I said right out of the gate, let Luther answer the question, and when Luther is done, you can answer. And that person would stop. So who destroyed the decorum, sir?
You did.
Okay,
Okay,
well, we're gonna.
goodbye. All right. Okay, you're done. Okay, so now we get people who lie again. Okay, so listen. So when somebody steps on my toes, and I said, hey, you're stepping on my toes, and then they say, well, you're destroying the decorum of the room. Really, people?
Yeah, that's
Push
a
it.
good point.
so
So
Darth,
before we
Darth.
move on,
Pastor
before
S, push away the
we move
bong,
on,
okay?
yeah, but before we move on, I did want to what do you call it? Um, ask Ido, right? So Ido, what are your thoughts about Catholicism and why are you a Catholic? Like, would you affirm like the Eucharist is necessary for salvation? Like, what are your thoughts, Ido?
I mean, before I want to say anything, I can only speak in respectful areas. If I don't know what to say to this, but like, if you want to say something, okay,
Sure, yeah. I was just
yeah,
saying that, I'm glad to hear your perspective. I think the ultimate goal is that like you and I would seek the truth because
yeah,
the truth is what it is. Right? You can change your
yeah,
beliefs. I can change my beliefs, but what matters is the actual state of affairs. And the actual state of affairs is that Jesus Christ shed his blood on the cross to pay for your sins and my sins completely and totally, nothing left over. And we're talking about essentials, right? We're not talking about adiaphora. And this is something which the Council of Trent pushes against, stating that if you affirm that there is no debt beyond the grave, let you and let me be anathema, let me be damned to hell. There's only one way to heaven through Christ, right? Christ says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. And, this is coming from a place where, like, I care about you, right? I care about everyone. I want them to believe in the truth. I want them to go to heaven, and there's no way apart from Christ. But yeah, so that being said, like, do you believe that the Eucharist is necessary, like, for the payment of your sins, for the payment of my sins? Like, am I doing something wrong if I don't hold to that? Like, if I don't believe the Eucharist is necessary for my salvation?
Right. And I completely respect you for saying all of this. Even though we feel a little bit disrespected participating in this conversation, we're still here because we have the same thing in common: the shared
How were
love.
you disrespected?
For example, interruptions.
Excuse me. Did I
When
ask
I get
Luther a question? And did you proceed
Darth, he
to
didn't
interrupt?
specify the person.
Hey,
Please
Tyler,
don't
please
take it.
be quiet. Tyler, please stop. Hey, Ito, okay? Did I ask Luther a question and then you interrupted? Did you interrupt?
this is very difficult for me, this conversation, honestly.
Okay. Did I ask Luther a question? Yes or no?
Theo,
But
bro, you see this,
yeah,
man. You have
let's.
to do something.
I mean,
Okay.
that's
Ito, you're accusing me of disrespecting you. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay. Did I ask Luther a question?
Yeah, sure, you did. A bunch of questions.
Okay. Now, when I got done asking the question and Luther started to speak, I shut my mouth. You immediately started to interject. Is that true?
What did I interject with?
Did you start talking after I asked Luther to answer a question?
How much can I say before you say something from now
Listen
on?
to me carefully. You see, you're being a slimy little devious person here. You're falsely accusing me of disrespecting you. I asked Luther a question. Did you interrupt and start speaking right after I asked Luther a question?
like I agree that he's not being forthright, but I would like to focus on the
How
debate
about you not
about like
falsely accuse me? Okay.
Okay,
Hey,
okay. Let me see.
Ito.
yeah.
Okay, let me say.
Did you
I can be forthright.
very simply, did you interrupt when I asked Luther a question?
Okay, I can be forthright, but can I then afterwards
I
clarify
want a
something?
simple answer to the question.
Yeah.
After I asked Luther a question, did you interrupt?
Okay, like who's the moderator?
Okay, goodbye. Get out of here. Okay. All right. See, this is what these people do. Because I object to their interfering and interrupting, and I do so in a very assertive manner, then I'm the bad guy and I'm accused of being disrespectful when they were the ones who were being disrupted to the flow of the conversation. I mean, these people are unbelievable. They're as bad as the atheists.
It's yeah.
I asked Luther a question. He immediately interfered, and I reminded him, please let Luther answer the question, and when Luther is done, you can chime in. And he kept on talking, didn't he?
Yeah, that's true.
And then when I
Yeah.
continued to object to his interference, he kept on objecting further until he was removed back to the audience. So because I'm objecting to his rude interference and not waiting his turn, he's impugning me of being disrespectful to him. That's called a lie. Okay?
Mm-hmm.
And
Well,
I've been doing this for 12 years, and I'm not about to sit around and tolerate this kind of lying that's going on.
mm-hmm.
Did I not say to him, hey, Ito, When Luther's done answering the question, you can go. Did he accept that? Or did he keep on moving his mouth in machine gun fashion? And did he refuse to stop? Who was being disrespectful there? And then he has the nerve to say, I was being disrespectful to him? These people are so dishonest.
Well, yeah, like I get that it's not like forthright and stuff, but I'm interested in kind of hearing like his perspective on Catholicism, why he holds to it being the truth, and kind of like helping them to see the truth. So yeah, like
Right.
I'd
But
be kind
after
of
you ask
glad.
him the question, listen, but after you ask that question, he proceeds to slime me. Did he
Yeah,
not?
yeah,
Did he not accuse me of disrespecting him?
yep.
Okay? So rather than answer the question, he decides to throw me under the bus. Okay? I'm not going to be a Casper Milquetoast. If someone is going to interrupt and be disruptive, I'm going to speak out. If somebody is going to lie about me, I'm going to speak out. Right?
Yep. But yeah, isn't it also good to kind of investigate their beliefs and like expose them to be false and whatnot?
I agree with you. If you want to bring him back up and he wants to answer your question, instead of trying to lie about me, I'm all for it.
Okay, yeah,
But
I think
I'm confronting him with his false accusation that he made against me.
Yeah.
yeah. So can we bring up Ido and Luther? So they could sort of bring their perspectives
Here,
then.
I invited
So
him up.
yeah, Ido and Luther, you can speak and let's hear your objections or why you think for example, what I said beforehand, why you think that's wrong and why you don't think perform the sacraments are not adding to the work of Christ. Yeah. So Ido and forget about what happened before. Let's not dwell on that anymore. Let's just move towards your hearing your views. Luther and Ido. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's
Well,
move towards a more fruitful discussion for like why you would affirm the sacraments are necessary for salvation, or if you would affirm like the Eucharist is necessary in order for you or I to be saved. Yes. What are your thoughts on that, Ido?
let's have some good communication with Darth. I do want to answer directly to what he said because he accused me of something. So let him ask things, and I'll just answer directly. And then afterwards, I hope the moderator will allow me to
Can
also
you
clarify.
stop? Can you please stop with this crap again? Just answer his question.
Yeah. So do you believe like the Eucharist is necessary for salvation, Ido?
Okay, I'm not willing to participate in this. Honestly, this is not a.
Okay? See, again, they want a little play games. They want to play the victim card when they're not the victim, they're the perpetuator. You know what? Don't falsely accuse me, okay? And then I won't speak up. If you lie about me being a disruptor, I'm going to confront you. Okay? It's that simple.
Yep.
This is the guy who was being disruptive. And then he wants to accuse me of being disruptive. This is what we call cry bullies. Okay? These are people who are actually bullies who cry victimhood. Okay? When they haven't been victimized. I asked Luther a question. Ido decided to intervene. I asked Ido to wait and let Luther answer. Did he honor that request?
Well, he didn't.
No, he didn't. And when I persistently insisted that he honor the request, to let Luther answer the question and wait his turn, he persisted in being disruptive. And then he wants to accuse me of being disruptive. This is disgusting.
But yeah, so I guess Moses, did you have like thoughts or whatnot?
Oh yeah, I really hoped when Ido came on, he didn't bring up like, because I knew it would escalate again, right? So I was really hoping he just went on with the discussion. I don't know if we have any other Orthodox or Catholic or Coptic in the
Before
By the
we
way, I
go
have a
on,
question for you, Darth. Oh,
before we go on, twice Theo asked the same question. And twice, rather than answer the question, he decides to verbally slime me rather than answer the question. Okay? Go ahead, Brojo.
Darth, do you know Progressive Pilgrim? I know you do. This is just totally side. I don't want to dominate. I just was.
Yeah, Progressive Pilgrim is or was a sidekick and lackey of Silver Star. And when the false accusations by Connie were directed toward me on one particular day, that she said that I was attacking her, which I did not. I was simply disagreeing with her on the issue of Billy Graham and other issues. Okay. On a subsequent day, she came back in crying, claiming that I attacked her, and I questioned her. How do I attack you? What did I say that was wrong? Right? She just carried on hysterically. After that event, Silver Star, along with Progressing Pilgrim, decide that they were going to throw me under the bus and merely accept Connie's accusations without having ever listened to the original interaction, right? Nor could they show how I was mistreating Connie on the subsequent day when I challenged her to show how I attacked her. And so Silver Star wouldn't let me defend myself, removes me from the audience. And then thereafter, when I attempted to talk with Progressing Pilgrim, he too threw me under the bus and wouldn't allow me to defend myself. So I don't have too much respect for him either.
Yeah, and the guy's a Roman Catholic now. I thought I wondered if it had anything to do with
Oh,
that, but
wait
I
a minute.
didn't
Well,
know
wait
that
a minute. Wait a
occurred.
minute. Wait a minute. Progressing Pilgrim is now a Roman Catholic?
Yeah.
Okay. Why am I not surprised?
So I get to hear his lectures about
Now,
the
did you
history of.
hear that out of his own mouth, or
Oh
did you hear
yeah,
that
oh
from
yeah. I'm
others?
constantly hearing. Yes, yeah. I'm listening to him talk about why he's a Catholic and the history of the church and.
All right, let me tell you a little bit about him, okay, why you shouldn't trust him in any conversation, right? I contacted him about what I believe was his mistreatment of myself. I attempted to deal with the situation privately, right? I kept on inviting him into a room which he claimed he couldn't join, which I find very hard to believe. He then sets up a room where I joined, and I asked him to keep it private. Okay, it's not as to not make a public spectacle of two professing Christians disagreeing about whose conduct was what. Okay, he refused to do so. He allowed the room to fill up so it could be a public spectacle. And then he muted me and then moved me back to the audience where I could not in any way speak or defend myself. Okay?
Mhm.
This is the kind of individual that you're dealing with. Okay?
I think I just had an interaction similar where as I was getting ready to respond, the guy said, "Well, clearly he doesn't have the patience to." I'm like, "Oh, gaslighting."
Yeah, he's not somebody who's willing to be fair. Okay? When I don't want to use the word. I'll say pleaded with him to have this a private interaction. He turned it into a public spectacle, and then without letting me even talk, he removed me from the room, and then proceeded to verbally attack me without me having the ability to respond. And Silver Star did the same thing. And in fact, I encountered Silver Star in a room the other day. I went up in the audience. He made a comment which I thought was funny because it was completely hypocritical given the way that he treated me about the Connie situation. And when I confronted him about that, rather than respond like a grown up, he removed me back to the audience. When I was brought back up again, because he had moderation powers, when I was brought back up again and he realized that that wasn't going to be tolerated, he flees rather than stand accountable for my questioning him about his mistreatment of me and defending himself like a man. He runs. And this is the same kind of person progressing pilgrimage.
Yeah, sounds like that interaction should have remained private.
Yeah, and none of this would be a spectacle if these people didn't make it such. But they want to make me the issue because I stand up for myself and I'm assertive when I believe that I am being mistreated. So now Darth is the bad guy because I speak out that I'm being mistreated. And no, it's not cry bullying.
And what's cry bullying?
Cry bullying is where you bully somebody by claiming you're being victimized, where the victimization is not real. Okay?
It's like a punchback baby kind of thing.
No, it's a false claim to mistreatment, and you're attacking the other person. You're poisoning the well. You're attacking them by claims of false mistreatment. Okay,
So it's
let
like
me
gaslighting.
look. Do you remember? Do you remember when the Supreme Court Justice, what was his name again? The last male that was appointed to the Supreme Court, I'm blanking out on his name.
Gorsuch or Kavanaugh?
Kavanaugh. When they brought up that woman, she made what are clearly accusations that any reasonable person would conclude were made up simply to smear him and to defame him so that he could not get on the Supreme Court. Her name was Christine Blasey Ford. So when people make false claims of being mistreated when it's simply not true, or it's a misrepresentation, it's a form of cry bullying. Right? It's trying to defame, smear, and throw the person under the bus when it's not true.
So then someone accused you of cry bullying. I see.
No. I'm not saying that they use that term. I'm just saying that there are people who engage in cry bullying, like we just saw with Ito, right? And the situation with Progressing Pilgrim and Silver Star vis-a-vis Connie, she was cry bullying because she didn't like the fact that I disagree with her on the character and practices of Billy Graham and her stated position on abortion, and I disagree with her like an adult. She didn't like that. And then the following day or two, she came in crying and whining, claiming that I attacked her. Of course, she gave no specifics as to how this was. And immediately there are others who were either in the room or listened to the recording who simply took her word for it that I had mistreated her when they weren't present for the interaction. Okay? And because I stood up for myself, saying to Connie, how did I mistreat you, Connie? What are the specifics? Okay? I'm not trying to
Also, when you're
gaslight
talking
her or
to
the audience, right? And then they turn into a YouTube recording, oh, Dawkins makes a woman cry. No, I didn't make her cry. She went to the crying mode to play the victim.
Yeah, that's going to happen anytime a guy confronts a woman. It just looks like you're bullying almost.
No, I simply pointed out to her that Billy Graham was not the faithful servant of the gospel that people believe he was, that he made numerous and chronic bad choices or alliances that compromised the gospel, right? And because she was a fanboy of
Didn't he
Billy
start
Graham,
fellowshipping with Catholics and Mormons?
It's even worse than that. He was wishy-washy on abortion. He was wishy-washy on evolution. He publicly endorsed a number of clergymen who were false teachers and heretics, and he publicly stated that they were men of God when they weren't. Okay? He would send decision cards from people at the Crusades back to churches that didn't teach the true gospel. He would refer to various institutions, such as the Catholic Church, as preaching the gospel of Jesus Christ. He referred to the Pope John
Oh,
Paul
wow.
II. He referred to Pope John Paul II. He wrote a complete article in the Saturday Evening Post, which at that time in the 70s was a major magazine. He wrote a whole article called The Pilgrim Pope, and in there he stated that Pope John Paul II was one of the world's greatest evangelists, leading many people to Christ, which that is a lie, okay? I tried to point this out to Connie, and like it is with many people, when they're all dreamy-eyed about certain famous professing Christians, they will stick their fingers in their ear and not listen to the truth. And so because I dared to disagree with Connie, then I was subject to false accusations of mistreating her, where they just simply believe her whining and her hysterical rendition, for which she provided no specifics. Right?
Well, what did she claim that you were doing?
She claimed that I was attacking her over Billy Graham and the issue of abortion. I simply responded to what she said in the conversation, that it wasn't a biblical one. And then she starts going into a screed about how she was protesting outside of abortion clinics years ago, as though that had
That
anything to
has
do
nothing to
with the.
do with anything.
She had a wishy-washy view on abortion. I think I even asked the question, would she outlaw it? And she wouldn't give a clear answer. Okay?
And when you
Wow,
say she
really?
outlawed, she wasn't willing to talk about it.
No. And because she wasn't treated like Princess Grace of Monaco, like she usually gets treated, she immediately assumed, because somebody was strongly disagreeing with her on her view and criticizing it, that therefore that constituted attacking her, which it did not. And then she had other people who were acquaintances of her who wanted to jump on the bandwagon and dump on Darth Dawkins for mistreating Connie, which I did not do. I mean, we just saw here today, Ito has
I
the
love that.
nerve.
I love that people are
Ito,
saying you're emotional.
sometimes, yeah, so what?
Well, that is true. You are human.
Yeah. We here today, we had Ito, okay, who was interrupting. I asked him to stop interrupting and wait till Luther finished answering the question. And then I said, then you can go, Ito, right? The guy wouldn't stop.
Now, who is this guy Dominic in here that's calling you a child molester?
Why? Somebody's calling me that in the
Yes.
text?
In the chat room, it says Darth says lying is worse than child abuse or worse.
No,
Child
no, no.
molesting with resistance.
This is a common meme that they are misrepresenting what I am saying, and I've clarified this over and over again. I said on a broad scale, okay, people physically and inappropriately coming into contact with children is not nearly as bad as systematic lying in society and culture. Okay? What they are doing is they're twisting my words to mean that a particular instance of lying, right? Like if a wife says, "Does this dress make me look fat, honey?" And the husband lies and says no. They're trying to impugn me as saying that a mere lie is worse than somebody, let's say, raping or molesting a child, which is not what I said or that I meant. I'm talking
Right,
about
right. But you mean like
lying.
you're talking about physical, like, ooh, this is gonna get. I know what you mean. You're talking
I'm
about.
talking about that there's a basic social contract that humans have all over the world, that in order for us to have civilization, there's a basic social contract within countries and across countries that when we speak to each other, we will be truthful. If lying, the abandonment of that social contract is granted, okay, that we don't have a basic obligation to be truthful to each other when we speak systematically in civilization, that is vastly worse and far more detrimental than those individuals, either individually or collectively, physically assaulting children. That is not the same as saying that a particular instance of lying is worse than somebody physically assaulting a child. So the people who are quoting this are completely gaslighting and misrepresenting my position. Why? Is because they can't refute the things that I stand for. So what they have to do is they have to take things that I say and misrepresent it. Okay? And these people are disgusting. Now, who is this that made this accusation? And is he still here?
It's
Dominic,
yeah.
I'm not seeing him here.
bro, Joe,
Yeah,
can you ask Darth to tell those who frequent the stage to block people? Dominic, it's in the room chat.
Is Dominic even still in the audience? Or did he run like the slanderer that he is?
he's not still in the audience.
Yeah, Tom Rabbit did a video on this. I've explained myself many times. I've always explained we're not talking about a particular instance of lying. We're talking about systematic lying in a culture or a civilization. Okay, is a very bad thing, and it has far greater
And when you say
um,
lying, can you define it more narrowly? You're talking about
people
indoctrination.
who are committed not to be truthful, that they completely abandon a basic social contract that we human beings would and should be truthful to each other when we talk to each other. Okay, that's what I'm referring to. Okay, and that the abandonment of the basic social contract of being truthful to each other, right? People who believe that lying is okay as long as it suits your purposes, right? In terms of its impact upon civilization, is vastly worse than instances of people physically assaulting children or anyone else for that matter.
Yeah, you'll have to give an example of that.
Do you understand that all civilization involves human beings interacting with each other on a regular basis?
Sure.
So when I say lying is worse than child abuse, I'm referring to the concept of lying where somebody, individuals, and groups of people abandon purposely the basic social construct of civilization that we will be truthful with each other in general. Okay? I'm saying that that is worse in terms of its overall consequences on civilization than it is where we have instances of people assaulting children. That is not the same thing as saying, "No, honey, that dress doesn't make you look fat." lying to your wife, that's worse than somebody in one particular instance of assaulting a child. Now, I've made myself clear every time I'm questioned about this, but the critics don't care. Okay? This is what they did to Donald Trump, right? The news media and the Democratic machine will take quotations that he makes out of context, right? Remember when there was a march, okay, where people were protesting, and on some sides you had the Antifa types, and some you had the Nazis, and Donald Trump said, "Yeah, there were bad people on both sides, but on both sides there were also some good people on both sides that didn't happen to be the neo-Nazis or the Antifa types." Well, the news media took his quotation, deliberately took it out of context to make him say something that he did not intend. Okay? That's disgusting.
Thanks, Bojo. Oh, Darth, Harley Quinn wants to apparently talk to you or something.
No, he's a you know what? I blocked him after he did all that trolling, and I've got to sign off anyway. I have work that I have to do. Okay, but
Yeah.
he so disgusted me with his trolling over and over again that I decided to block him. Okay, not because he upset me, but because he engaged in such trolling that
Oh,
I
really?
felt that it was disgusting.
Well,
Yeah,
you've
because
been now accused of gossiping.
I told him
What's
I
that?
was. Sorry.
Okay, you're
Yeah, because
now
I
accused of gossiping.
Who's being accused?
Harley Quinn,
Yeah.
or is it Rojo?
No, you are, dog.
How am I gossiping?
Yeah, Adara said Darth is gossiping. That was 2 minutes ago.
Who's saying that?
I had somebody named Adara, but I don't know if you'll hear.
Is that person even in the room?
Not currently.
No, I'm talking
Um,
about a public conversation that transpired, so there's no gossip, right?
Yeah, like this Harley Quinn. I told him I don't know your situation with Darth, so you go talk to him, and then he just kept trying to um
Yeah, if he
he
wants to
kept
come
trying
to
to
me,
do something.
if he wants to apologize for his out and out trolling earlier, I'll be glad to forgive and forget, and then we can have a future dialogue. But when people engage in that kind of trolling behavior, okay, I think it's disgusting.
Yeah, I told him let Darth talk, and then you could talk next, but he kept over talking you, and he wasn't listening to what I was trying to tell him.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. He kept on purposely trolling and trolling and trolling, and he wouldn't stop. Okay.
Yeah, I witnessed it. I was like, wow, he just couldn't
Yeah.
stop talking, and I just trying to get him to understand, but he just kept going, and I just like couldn't deal with it
No,
anymore.
what we have on Clubhouse is we have a lot of cry bullies. Okay. They behave abusively, and then when you object to their abusive behavior, they cry foul. Okay. Just like you saw Ito do.
Mm. Yeah, because he's talking about uh, I forgot what he was talking about, but
Cry bullying is where you try to smear somebody by misrepresenting or making false accusations of their wrongdoing. Okay.
yeah, he talk about
Look, it's just like what Christine Blasey Ford did to Kavanaugh.
hmm,
She made up crap that was inconsistent and even contradictory to other things that she say, and she had no corroboration whatsoever. It was simply an attempt to smear somebody while claiming that they victimized you. Okay?
yeah, it's kind of like they tell a lie and then said, "Oh, I didn't tell a lie." Like tell a lie to that person, but not tell a lie to that other person. And this Harley Quinn was like, he doesn't know. Like he just thinks, like like Jeff. It's like Jeff Trimble. He's like, you dealt
Jeff
with him
Trimble
before.
is
Yeah.
listen, He is a 60-plus something man who has the emotional IQ of a 13-year-old with ADD who didn't take his Ritalin. He's a pathological liar, and he lies. He's deceitful. He's deceitful and evasive in every conversation I have had with him, and every interaction that I've heard him had with people who come from a Christian theistic point of view. He's deceptive and evasive. Okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Darth, can I ask you a question?
You got to make
Mm.
it fast because I got to go.
So there's somebody who frequents the stage that has blocked a few people that aren't like the absolute trolls, that they may have had a heated discussion. Can you just consider unblocking some of those that aren't like really trolls, that wouldn't really disrupt some things? Because there's some, for instance, Jeff the physician, he can't even get in a lot of these rooms, and we were talking.
Well, I've had it with Jeff. Every time I've interacted with Jeff, he just lies, and evades. And I think it's disgusting. What's even worse is that he claims he's a professional and that he's a doctor, and yet he lies like he's some street pot seller out there, and it's disgusting. So no, I'm not going to unblock him. He can go pound. He can go pound sand. I've dealt with him about 7 or 8 times. Every single time he's been deceptive and evasive. And no, I don't impugn people of that because they simply disagree with me. Okay?
I understand. Yeah, I
It's one
understand.
thing. Yeah,
I
it's
am
one
more
thing.
than willing, listen to me, I am more than willing for anybody to make a side request of somebody I blocked to remove their block, and then I'll put it under consideration. Okay?
Okay. Yeah, I
But
wanted to vouch on
there
behalf of
are
him.
I have unblocked dozens of people who made direct or indirect requests, okay, to be unblocked. I say, okay, fine, just commit that you're not gonna troll me anymore, right? There are
Yeah.
some people that are so bad, so chronic about it that when a request comes in, I said, no, I'm not unblocking them, and it's not out of spite, okay? It's
Yeah.
to draw a line in the sand. You're gonna come to this public square, right? See, this is why I said earlier when I talked about the issue between systematic lying and civilization versus people assaulting children, that this is really bad. And when people are committed to that, I don't put up with it. Okay, listen, I got to go.
Hey, Brojo.
I think he's on the phone, but yeah, hello,
Oh,
Expo.
I see it. Yeah, hey, Theo. I wanted to say hi to Darth. I haven't talked to him in years.
Yeah, that's fair. He comes on pretty often. Yeah, I'll follow you, and I'd say yeah, like go ahead and follow Darth, and you'll probably see him the next time he comes on.
Yeah, I added him to the little following thing. I think I added you as well. I know I have Brojo.
There's a good debate with Darth with the that other room, but somebody moved him back to the audience, which sucks. I knew it was gonna screw up the debate.
Yeah.
Oh, was it one way?
No, it wasn't one way. It was some. I don't know. I've never went to the rooms of these two people. It was some guy who said he was a nominalist. His name started with an A, but they just Darth was interjecting and they booted him off stage, and I was like, ah, this debate's over.
Was it today?
Yeah.
Oh, it's probably what room?
It might
It was
still be going on because I just left to come over here.
yeah, it could be. I don't know. What was that room? Atheism, proper something, right?
Oh, atheism, a proper brainwash. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was in there, but just in and out. I mean, if they can't defend, it's like if they can't defend, like usually I'm not there. I'll just go in and out and just yeah.
What's your best arguments you've heard for atheism?
Mm,
Even if it's a crappy argument, what's the best out of the crappy arguments you've heard?
I don't think I've heard any because I think it's just the same old I hear every time. I'm like, can I hear something new or something I've never heard of or something? You know?
Right.
Yeah.
So
So
I don't know this full position, but it seemed like when somebody presented a discussion about free agency, like there seemed things seemed to get complicated. But I didn't really follow the discussion full enough to really rehash it.
free agency.
Yeah, I don't
I
think I've
think
heard that.
I think that's have I heard it before? Free agency. I heard moral agents.
Is
Free
it similar
agency.
to the free will, or?
Yeah, I think I heard free agency
Yeah,
before.
yeah. I think it's similar to free will.
Yeah, I have no idea. I just how should I say it? It's just they just they really can't. They usually don't defend, or it just doesn't make sense. You know,
Yeah,
like
I honestly
I don't really pay
haven't.
much attention to it.
I'm not a theist, but I generally haven't heard any great arguments for not theism or for atheism as well. So that's why I asked.
Well, yeah, I would say like I would say like you know, questions about like evil. You know, why is there evil in the world? Uh, you know, I don't think that is an effective argument. Well, I don't think it's like a true argument, but I think that it comes from like a genuine place. You know,
Mhm.
with people like they're wondering, okay, you know, why is there suffering? Why is all this stuff happening? And I think those are good, because they're more genuine, right? So that's kind of my
Right.
thoughts.
Yeah, they've at least formed something that's coherent.
I mean, like my view is that there needs to be a good, right? God needs to be actual in order for us to say that evil exists in the first place.
Mm.
Um, but I guess from operating within the Christian worldview, they ask, okay, well, why does God allow this suffering? And you know, like we can talk about like children. There, I was watching special books for special kids yesterday, and this young guy John, he's 19 years old now. He has EB. I forgot the full name. It's like epidermis bulimia or something. Basically, he lacks like collagen in his skin, so his skin uh it can shear off
Mm.
and it cracks and breaks easily, and so he has all these wounds across his body, wrapped in bandages, limited mobility, painkillers to keep himself from feeling too much pain throughout the day. Um, but you know, despite it all, he has this very positive outlook. He loves his family, and he's glad to be alive. Now, the common there are a few there like the common argument nowadays, like when it comes to abortion, is that one of them is like, oh well, we shouldn't allow them to be born because they're gonna there's gonna be too much suffering for them. Like, you know, they might go through the orphanage, and orphanages like isn't like the best place for kids. They might go through all this suffering throughout their life. So therefore they shouldn't be allowed to live whatsoever. But you know, the question about suffering, the question the question is well, like who are we to determine the value of someone's life? Who are we to determine if the suffering that they went through was worth it or not? You know, that's up to them, right? That's for them to decide. I don't think that's really like up to me or you or someone else. I
That
don't believe.
sorry, that particular condition that you're referencing is a real that does really bring in the atheist versus theist discussion, because like those people with the EB, I know what you're talking about. It's horrendous. It's suffering right from birth. Like you're in pure pain from day
Right.
one, and it's like what a lot of the mothers I've seen in documentaries regarding that condition, they're like, I wish I would never had this kid, and they're talking about it for the kids' sake, because of the amount of pain they go through day in and day out.
I only have the problem with evil with when it's brought up that there could be morally sufficient reasons for it. Like God could have morally sufficient reasons for the evil or for the suffering. The critique with it, that if he has morally sufficient reasons that you can't understand, then how can you understand anything that God's pronouncing to you or doing for you? He essentially I just picked the Bible. It doesn't have to be the Bible, but the Bible could be written in such a way that it's a lie for soul building exercises or for some reason, and
But
you'd have
yeah,
no way to know.
but that's I mean, if you're ever born with this condition, and somebody were to, if I were born with this condition, somebody were to tell me that, I would think that whatever God this is like the most sadistic God ever, because it's like the amount of pain that these people go through. Their skin breaks at the slightest touch, and then they have to change these bandages every night, and it's just like ripping skin off. And then if I had somebody telling me that, oh, this is a test for you to test your faith in God and to understand God, that claim would fall short for me.
Yeah, that's got to be terrible. I'm in chronic pain all the time, and I can't imagine it being worse. And what you're explaining is definitely worse than what I'm in.
I don't view it as like, it's a test from God, like, oh, like it's just like, I believe like it's for a reason and for a purpose. Like Paul had a thorn in the flesh and he prayed 3 times to God, please take this away from me. And God said that my grace is sufficient for you. And then he said, I will rejoice in my weakness, for when I am weak,